Coffee is fascinating. Every country has contributed to coffee in a different way. It's said that coffee was discovered in Ethiopia by a shepherd who noticed that when his goats would eat a certain cherry, they'd become really jittery. Monks from Yemen later discovered this, and then they began to boil the cherry, and they would drink that, and it would extend their prayer times. The Arabs were actually the first ones to grow coffee commercially around the 14th century. We get the word Americano from US troops during World War II who would add water to their espresso to mimic the drip coffee they were used to from back home. In 2011, the British actually made a car that ran entirely off of coffee. But coffee is much more than just a fuel or a legal stimulant. It's a craft. From every part of the process, it requires mastery. From the plantation where it's grown, to the roaster, to the cafe, all the way down to your cup. But coffee also is very often just a means to an end. And that end is relationships. Think about it. If you're going to ask somebody to a date for the first time, you're very likely to ask them to get a cup of coffee with you. Why? Because coffee's warm enough to break the ice. Imagine how you could use this in a missions context. Now, I believe that coffee is about to have another historical impact. It's already happening, really. Missionaries around the world are using coffee as a resource. They're opening cafes to employ recovering drug addicts, people who have been marginalized, people recovering from human trafficking, so on and so forth. Missionaries are also using this as a tool to employ themselves in a country that they otherwise would not be able to stay in. And even in your town, discipleship is happening over coffee. This is why we started our coffee ministry at YWAM Yosemite. We want to train people who are interested in using this resource as a tool for missions. We want the gospel to be spread. We want to share the love of Jesus through coffee.